All right. How are you? Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have been everywhere and we're back again. Back to you. We have missed you since the last time. You know, this is the Real Talk Show hosted by Rochelle Lawson, the queen of Feeling Fabulous from Blissful Living, and myself, Dr. Kim Brown Barber, better known as Dr. Kim from Journey to Becoming. And you know, this is a live stream podcast designed with the mindset of connecting and inspiring and motivating, supporting and uniting and doing all those things with women all around the world. It's a safe place and where we can just come together and just have real talk about real issues and challenges that we face in our today's society. And we just look for just ways to be able to communicate and to support each other. And so we share wisdom and all of that. So we need that to make this world a better place. And we know we can do that. I am the founder and CEO of Journey to Becoming, which exists to coach clients in their journey to their purpose, developing strategies and motivation and empowerment to become who you were meant to be now. Right? We focus on women and we have a college students platform as well. Rochelle, tell them a little bit about who you are.
So, yes, I am texting, but not really. I am sending a shout out to Facebook to let everybody know that we are live here on the Real Talk Show. I am Rochelle Marie Lawson, the queen of Feeling Fabulous, business entrepreneur extraordinaire, top 50 women-owned business owner in Silicon Valley. And I am just feeling really blessed to be able to be here with you all this evening and really talk about the topic of the day that Dr. Kim is going to share that has to do with us women. This Real Talk is about women, and it's issues that we women confront, have to deal with, figure out in our lives every single day. And it also is about the issues that affect us in a positive, negative manner, how we feel about that. We have real discussion and no hard bar. So if you were watching us, if you've joined us live, if you're watching us, you might want to grab a girlfriend, text a girlfriend, tell her to join us, because we really, really want to hear what you women have to say about the topic that we're going to discuss today. So, Dr. Kim, take it away.
All right. And we are just so happy and elated to have with us as one of our guests on our show today is Miss Paula Carter. She is, let her tell more about herself, but she's awesome. She, of course, you can't be on the show unless you're awesome, right? So she's awesome already before we even get started. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you. My name is Paula Carter. And first of all, thank you for having me. Queen of Being a Fabulous, and of course, Dr. Kim. I am currently retired right now. I do some consulting. I've done a couple of things since I've been retired. But I recently retired from California State University, Monterey Bay. I was director of admissions and I worked there about 10 years. And prior to that, I was at another college. And so I've had about 20 years in the higher education industry. So I do have my thoughts on what's going on, our topic today, but I've had other experiences as well. So those will come out as we talk, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you.
I know it. Yeah. Well, this is awesome. I mean, I really am looking forward to today's conversation because today's topic, ladies, out there, everywhere, and in our community, right, is redefining leadership. Okay. And like a 6 months checkup for Vice President Kamala Harris. Where is she now? What has happened? How do we feel about it? What do we like about what has happened so far? And what we would like to see. So two kind of different things, but kind of similar things, because we're still redefining leadership, even in Vice President Kamala Harris. So first, let's just talk about redefining leadership. First, when you think of leadership, what do you think of? Either one of you. When you think of leadership, what do you think of?
Well, I think leadership is the ability to make changes.
Okay.
Whether it's whether it's known changes or unknown changes. A true leader is able to embark upon something, see something, and make a change. Now, there's some leaders that we know, right, that are in certain areas. There's certain leaders that we don't know. We all know that we had leaders in our family that maybe weren't known to anyone other than us, but they were somehow leaders and they navigated new waters for us in our lives. And then we have leaders from a broader perspective where they're in positions of leadership. And there's some leaders that don't really have the position, but they affect change anyway. We all know how that happens. So I think true leadership is the ability to affect change. And the best leaders are the ones that, from my perspective, act as servant leaders. They model what they want. So.
Okay, then. All right.
I agree. I want to expand upon that a little bit with her definition as a leader does have the capabilities or they affect change, but also they have to be a visionary to visualize what they want to see for changing things better as they step into their leadership roles. And so great. I'm spot on with Paula, and I just want to add the visionary part, because without vision, you can't even see what needs to be changed or even how to get to that point to change it. So I just wanted to add that with regards to, you know, what leaders do.
Right, exactly. So do you think, so let me ask you this. Can leadership be taught? Yes or no, and why? Because that's a question that's asked a lot of times. I get asked that a lot of times about, can leadership be taught? And I get a lot of different answers. So I'm just curious for this panel, you know, for us, for our guest today, to find out, what do you think, Paula? Can leadership be taught?
I think it can be taught, but I think that the individual has to have something innate, a desire. And whether that desire is created by your surroundings. You know, sometimes leadership, the desire to change is created by your surroundings. Sometimes it's given as an inheritance from the people that you're around in terms of how they operate. I think that even with those two things, we all know that we've come from situations where we have the same family and people turn out totally different when they're raised by the same two people. So, or one person. So I do think there's something that's innate in that person, that's something in that person where they want to change. But I think the ability to change is somehow taught or learned through either situations or other people or the environment.
I have a little bit different take with regards to, based on my experience. No, it's good. Based on my experience.
No, not that. No, I apologize. I had something that was starting and I don't know why it was starting. So I had to cut it off.
Okay.
You're good. Yeah.
But with regards to leadership, my experience is I never saw myself as a leader. I just saw myself doing stuff that I wanted to do. And I'm just that type of chick. You can't tell me I can't do it, because I'm going to do it. But over my 3+ decades of being a successful multi-business owner, I would hear that, oh, you're a leader. I mean, I've been hearing this since I was a little kid, right? But I never, I'm just doing, but, oh, you're a leader, or, you know, you just command people. People want to follow you. And, you know, I'm just doing what I'm just doing me. But there were people that recognized in me things that I see in myself with regards to leadership. See, I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing, but these people recognized that I had these leadership qualities. For instance, when I was probably under 35. So I was probably under 35. I joined the National Association of Women Business Owners in Silicon Valley because I wanted to give my business a more dominant presence with a minority woman-owned business in a male-dominated industry. So I'm like, I need to find a tribe. So I joined this organization, and there were women in this organization that saw something in me. And so I got invited to be on the board of directors. I sat on that board for a total of 8 years. But in the progression of me sitting on the board, then they were like, okay, we want you to be our next president. Like, what? You know, I'm just here. And so again, these ladies saw something in me, and they were older ladies. So apparently they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. So, okay, I took that role. You know, I had, during my tenureship, I became the leader. I was very focused on diversity and having the organization look like a representation of what the Silicon Valley is, which was it's a diverse community, right? Unfortunately, at that time, I was the only diverse person in there. Let me put it this way. I was the only Black person. There was maybe 1 or 2 Asian women and a couple Latinas, but the rest were all Caucasian women. And so when I became a leader of the organization, my platform, and you know, here's what I'm seeing change, right? My platform was, I wanted, how can we say we're an organization and we have diversity, which was in our mission, our vision, in the bylaws of the national organization, when we're not really diverse. So my goal was to make the change of having the organization represent the diversity in Silicon Valley, because in that top 50 women-owned business list, there were a whole bunch of Caucasian women-owned businesses, but there at the top was a minority-owned business by an Asian woman, and she commanded, and she was, at that time, she was making $865 million a year. She was number one. So it's like, how can I get the organization to be representative of the diversity in Silicon Valley when people come to the meetings, they don't see diversity, and so they're like, there's a disconnect. When I was president, I I increased the membership by 250%.
Wow.
Increased the diversity by about 200%. So when you came into the room, it wasn't like you might see 2 or 3 people of color. You started seeing maybe 10, 15, 30, 40% of the attendees were people of color, which represented the diversity of Silicon Valley. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so that was my platform as a leader for that organization. As soon as I became past president, I still had pull because people were coming because, you know me. Once I got off the board, the membership tanked. And not a bad thing, but it tanked and the diversity pretty much went away. And so what Paula said with regards to change, that was my platform. It was change. But again, I would have never stepped into that role if there weren't women that were more seasoned, that saw qualities in me as a leader that I didn't see in myself. Now, granted, I went in a telecom business in like I said, a male-dominant industry, and I was a top 50 woman-owned business. And I didn't see me as being a leader. I just saw me as being very focused, you know, to be successful, so to speak. And so, I think I just, you know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because kind of like just like what both of you were saying, a lot of times people have leadership qualities within them, but they don't really know it. And like you were saying, people were all of a sudden noticing, saying, "Hey, Rochelle, you do this, do that." We see that, and they kept putting you into position of leadership. And then, you know, sometimes we don't see that, you know, and then we have to have somebody cultivate that in us because they see it in us, right? And then they're able to help us. So they mentors. That's why mentors are so important. We kept talking about how we need to be helping, you know, each other as we go into other positions and other opportunities. We need to be pulling one another, you know, along with us. So that way you can make sure it's being diverse and that it becomes a legacy of diversity and not a one and done. Right. Because a lot of times that's kind of what you saw, Rochelle, even in Silicon Valley. When you were there, it was happening. But then when you were gone, it was done. So, you know, it's like, OK, but we got to pull other people into those positions so that it becomes a legacy and it becomes a change, you know, a sustainable change. And so I just think it's amazing because, you know, with leadership, you know, you do hear people saying, OK, but you can't be taught leadership. Well, yeah, you can, because think about how you were cultivated. Something was there that had to be cultivated, but then you still had to be trained and you know, all the other pieces. I mean, like Rochelle, when you got into that piece of, just think about before when you were a member and you were the actual president. I'm just asking, what was the difference in what your knowledge base of what I mean, just walking in as a member and when you were actually the president? Was there a gap between that knowledge base, or what was different? What was different between those positions?
There wasn't a gap. I think for me, because I I think I'm a natural born leader. I just didn't see
Mhm.
myself that way. I'm a trendsetter. I didn't see myself that way either. These were terms that other people were utilizing, referring to me. And
Mhm.
I just was like, okay, but I didn't see myself that way. So when I was a member, I was a member.
Mhm.
I mean, I was all in. I mean, literally, I probably was a member for less than 6 months and was asked to be on the board of directors.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but I think sometimes when it comes to being a leadership role, it's something you learn as you go, so to speak,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
you already have the skills and you just learn how to massage the skills so
Mhm.
that you can get out of everybody what you need for them to
Yeah.
do in an
Yeah.
effective manner. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
think that's what happened for me. Granted, I was under 35.
Mhm.
So I was a way different type of chick back then.
Right.
Very, I don't want to say not aggressive, but definitely
Mhm.
very driven,
Mhm.
very outspoken. So kind of said what it was on my mind and didn't sugarcoat things. But
Right.
a lot of times people respected that because I came from, and of course I was professional. Don't get me wrong, I was professional.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I didn't cut to the chase. It was like, this is this is black. This is the line. You over here. You need to be over here. What's the problem?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it's just interesting. I didn't see a difference between me being a member or a president. I just saw a difference in what I wanted to achieve. And there's, one, being a member, I wanted to expose myself to a community of successful
Mhm.
business owners. And then one, being the president, I wanted to expose my community to diversity of
Sure.
other women business owners that were successful, but because they didn't have an avenue, a platform, or didn't know about it, they were hidden. And I wanted to bring all of them to the forefront.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Sure.
for me, I agree with everything that's been said. I do think I was always put in leadership roles, even when I didn't necessarily see myself, but I wasn't
Mhm.
sure if I wanted to be a leader. Because my mother used to say, much is given, much is required.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, so
So true.
that always scared me. And I just wasn't sure if I really wanted to be a leader. And I think that once I did embrace that leadership role, I did
Mhm.
have to be taught how to be an effective leader, how
Mhm.
to get, like
Mhm.
you just said, just how to get the most from people.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you motivate people? How
Mhm.
do you get them to change their mind or change direction?
Mhm.
And so those were those soft skills, because I know when I was younger, I was really direct too, and I would just say what I think. And like my mother used to say, communication. You can say what you think, but are you communicating what you want? Is the other person receiving it
Right, right.
in the way you're
Exactly.
trying to say it? And so I had to learn those soft skills, and how to say things so people could receive what I was hearing,
Mhm.
not just
Mhm.
me thinking that this is what I'm going to tell you because it's right. So those were the things that I had to learn. But I also had to learn um, how to get the most from people, and then how to change the hearts and mind of people around you. I was in
Mhm.
a large university setting, and how do you change the people that you have to get their buy-in? How do
Mhm.
you develop those
Mhm.
relationships so they'll see and give you the support that you need so you can lead what you're trying to do? So those were skills that I had to learn, even though I did have I don't say a natural ability, but I would walk into any meeting and immediately see what could be done better. And it wasn't in a negative way. It's just, you have this sense of, this can be this, this, and this. And
Mhm. Mhm.
so, yeah, so I do think what everyone's saying here is true, that you may not see yourself, but then there are some things that, you need mentoring in
Mhm.
so that you
Mhm.
can be an effective leader.
Mhm.
For sure.
And then you like, you mentioned something, Paula. You said, you kind of always really had that concept of it because you would walk into the room and start analyzing of how it could be done better. Not that it was anything wrong with what was going on in the room, but how could it be done better, right? So you were already, like displaying skill sets of a leader, not even realizing it, right? Until all of a sudden, because you probably had in the back of your mind what your mama said, too much is given, much is required. And you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to do all that. Well, that's a lot of responsibility, right? And sometimes that does, it scares people with leadership sometimes. And can there be different types of leaders? Like some people will come in and say, yeah, you are, an A personality, and so it's easier. But they think because you're not an A personality, you can't be a leader. That's not true. Yeah. So my question is, so can there be different types of leadership, whether the person is outgoing and aggressive or whether a person is more reserved?
Well, absolutely.
You go, Paula.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, if we think of leadership as being the way to affect change, there's different ways to change things. And we've all seen leaders either on the political realm or the entertainment realm or and whatever, and even in the business realm, they may be different in terms of how they do things, but the ability to make change and to win people and help them to see you is really key. I'm going to use that the young woman tennis player Naomi
Osaka.
Yes, and she really did. She in the small moment, she made people think about how they were being treated. She said, my mental health is important.
Yes.
So I'm willing to take that fine. And so when they decided to kind of double down her and give her an ultimatum, she then decided to back away. And then all of a sudden people start thinking like, gee, maybe this is not the best way for us to handle it. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but there definitely was a shift and a change by her simply saying no. So, and she's a quiet person. She's not serene. She's not some of the other people that will just say, no, this is not right. But her style was definitely different. But it's like Rosa Parks said, no, I'm not going to stand. There are different type of leaders that make change, and they don't necessarily have to be a certain type.
That's it. Yeah, that's it right there. That's it, Paula, right there.
I agree. Although I do believe that you can't be a pushover as a leader and you can't be weak. And because if you're a pushover and you're weak, you will never be able to take command of the ship, so to speak. You'll always be falling to the way of what someone else tells you. So I think with regards to the whole business arena, when you look at the different types of leaders in business, male and female, they all have a distinct quality, right? There's always a distinct quality. Now, some people are very upfront in your face type of leaders. They will kick your ass to get stuff done. That's how they roll.
Right. That's their style.
You know that right away. You know that. And then there's some people that they're great leaders, but they do a passive aggressive type of thing. Right. Or there's some people that are just kind of laid back.
They're just very, very laid back. Yeah.
But so there's different leadership styles I'm going back to MBA school from UCLA 21 years ago. But, there's an authoritarian and, all these various leadership styles. And for that matter, they're all successful. They just have a different way of getting their results. I mean, if you think of Stephen Jobs, and then I'm trying to think of, I don't really know much about Jeff Bezos and his the way he leads, or the Tesla dude. I can't think of it. Elon
Musk.
Right. I think three different distinct individual men that are leaders, but I think they all have different leadership style. Well, Stephen, he's not leading anymore here, but when he was alive, I think they all had different leadership styles. But if you think about women in general, if you are a woman that's commanding it, right, you get labeled as being that bitch because you're commanding and you're taking control of your head, right?
Paula, you got that look on your face. You got that look like, I can relate. What that look is like.
You're not that. You're not that. You're just doing the same thing a man would do.
But,
right. But what's your label? Right.
You know, that's the first thing they want to say. Believe me, I've heard it over and over and over again because I was a woman playing in a male dominated industry. So when I was assertive, I was being a bitch. Well, I was like, okay, I'm beautiful, intelligent, talented, compassionate, and healthy. Call me bitch all day long, but you're still gonna do what I'm asking you to do if we want to have a collaboration in business, right? This is what it is. I'm gonna ask. You can say no, we can negotiate or whatever. But if me asking and taking a command and stand for what I feel is right for the benefit of my company and my employees, if that's being a bitch, I'm gonna be a bitch all day long because my company, my employees, my people are my main priority. So it's interesting. It becomes really interesting, but there are a lot of women out there that, you know, command and do the things. And Carly Fiorina, when she was head of Hewlett Packard. You know, this is a woman who started there as a secretary. She worked her way up to CEO. Well, I'm sure she got labeled as a bitch along but all she was doing the same thing the fellas was doing. But because she was a woman, it came. They you know, you can't tell men what to do because you know what I'm saying. So there's just so many women that take command. And who was the one after her at HP that looked like Benjamin Franklin? And at one time she was thinking about running for president. You know who I'm talking about? Meg Whitman.
Meg.
Sorry, Meg, but you do look like Benjamin.
I was like, Benjamin, really?
Yes, look her up. But again, another woman, different leadership style than Carly, same corporation. But she, you know, two different women leading this very successful corporation that had been around for 50, 60, 70 years or whatever. And two different leadership styles, but they were able to be that commanding CEO that they needed for that large corporation. And it's thriving and surviving, and they've gone on to do other things. So it's interesting.
It is. And it's so many different dynamics that you know, what we experience and how things are changing. And right now you're seeing a lot of leadership, you know, even changing because, you know, we had this once in 102 year pandemic that came and changed, you know, all sorts of leadership that's even going forward that a lot of people even looking at as we start to, you know, to look like, think and hope that we're turning corners. That it's even impacting leadership and how people are even, you know, leading their companies, leading their not only companies, but universities, leading their lives, leading just anything, organizations, you know. And one of the things that you see is that technology is coming, you know, to make sure that we're really tech savvy, right? Or at least have somebody that is going to be near you that is tech savvy. You know, back in the past, pre this, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to be, you know, tech savvy. You didn't have to have the tech pieces there, you know. But now, you know, in the midst of all of this, from trying to turn the corner on this, now we're having to be tech savvy. I mean, but it's a lot of other changes that are happening. So I'm just wondering, how do you see it changing right now?
I think in essence, prior to COVID, 2020, COVID was a pivot point or a monumental year for us. I think the only play with regards to technology, we had already been very technologically ingrained. I think the only change with regards to technology is the virtual meetings and stuff, at least. We still had the computers, you still had the phones, you still had everything. The only thing is we went from meeting in person to virtual. And that was really the only piece of technology. When you really think about it, that's all that's changed. Nothing else.
Yeah, but not really, because we weren't utilizing it to full potential. I'll give you a perfect example. Universities, a lot of universities weren't utilizing it to full potential of online classes and a lot of online technology. They were planning it, right? They were planning it for the long time, but they didn't feel a need or urgency to have to deal with technology and utilize its full potential at that point. And then all of a sudden it was like they were thrust into it. So now because of that,
not necessarily that it didn't exist. It existed.
Right. I'm not saying it didn't exist. I'm saying that utilizing the full potential. So they were thrust into it. So now part of that leadership is that they really have to think in terms of, okay, really using the full potential of technology, and not debating whether it existed. It always existed, but just because it exists doesn't mean it's being used, right? And so they weren't using it. And so now it's interesting because as we start to look at repopulating the campuses, one of the talks is that, okay, now it's not going to just go away. Now we're going to embrace it even more. And that's something that they said that's different that we didn't do before.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paula.
I just want to say, I think that the educational institution, I worked for a private industry for 13 years. And when I started working for education, there was a total difference in terms of use of technology. The private industry, they were ahead of the game. They were disruptors. They were doing a lot of things. When I went to education, seriously, we just start imaging documents, and then you'd go to one department that was imaging that was filing their paperwork in a file drawer, and you're like, should everyone be able to see those documents? Can we get those scanned? And by the way, we do have a retention and a security policy. I'm serious. No names, because I work.
No, that's true. I know. Believe me. I hear you.
The educational piece, they were a lot slower, as Dr. Kim said, and in adopting. And so even working in the office I worked in, we had a lot of different systems, but they weren't necessarily talking or integrated in the way that was best for the student. And I say end user because I used to do some support in computers. And so it wasn't best. And so if you were talking to a student, you'd have to say, oh, wait a minute, let me look at this image. Oh, wait a minute, let me go to this. Oh, wait a minute, let me see what communications you had. You had to go to 3 and 4 and 5 systems just to really communicate to the students when you were problem solving. And so I think they're working toward that. I'm not going to name the name of the software, but I think they're working toward that now.
Right.
So that when you're talking to a student, you can see it. But honestly, when I worked for private industry, that was already there. That was given. Like, if we're going to have these things, we need to make sure that they're integrated to make it easier, because that's why you have technology. To make it easier when you're communicating or selling or whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, it's no doubt. And that's what they found out. Like, wow, why weren't we using this all along?
Here's the thing. There were online colleges before COVID.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
But what I'm saying,
so
the gamut.
California college system or any state's college system, they may have not utilizing the technology to the fullest, but those schools those colleges that were strictly online were. So when COVID happened, they didn't have any problems because they were in the game. It's the traditional colleges.
There you go.
Traditional colleges that have to figure it out, and the whole school system across the nation. And they still didn't figure it out because they could only have so many kids online, and I mean it was a mess. But it just COVID. I think 2020 just brought enlightenment to all of us that don't get comfortable with what you're doing.
That's true.
Cutting edge of things, because that cutting edge thing may be the next best, latest, greatest things that we need to utilize in our lives to keep things going forward.
It's no doubt. I have, mad respect for technology. No question. Always trying to learn something with it, but I have mad respect for it because it does. When you pass that learning curve, you're like, man, how did I get along without this? Right. But so it's awesome. But, like some of the other things that I've seen is sustainability becoming a big thing, in leadership. How can you make it sustainable? When you come up with different ideas, programs, or whatever it is, how can you make it sustainable? Everybody's always asking that word. I mean, what have you guys seen as changes in leadership so far, as we are kind of going through this, turning the corner of the pandemic?
Well, okay, I'm just going to use my experience in a large office of about 20 people. The most important thing is you have to make sure you train the people. Like when I left, you need to make sure that the people you're working with are trained, right? You need to make sure that they're trained, because they're going to be part of the people that pass it on to someone else. So you need to make sure you have documentation, whether it's, electronic or whatever. Hopefully you don't have anything paper hanging around, because no one will ever pull out a large file folder. But if you have it easily accessible, if you have it, if you train people, but the most important thing is also the leadership that you're working with. Because if you have people that are in your system that will also make sure that it is the commitment to make sure that that is going to go forth. Because if one person leaves, it really shouldn't stop everything else. But in a lot of ways, sometimes it does. Because you have the commitment as long as you're there. And so, and I'm thinking of one program in particular. I don't know how it's going now. So I'm not going to mention on this program, but I tried to make sure that there were people in place that would continue that, because it was so important. I did my little, budget fundraising, I made sure I communicated, and I hope that it is, because it was really important. But you can't guarantee that unless the people you've given it to have that same commitment. And or if you have an institutional, in cases of large places like a university, you have to have the institutional commitment. Because you and I, everyone knows that as soon as you start a project, if you don't have that overall commitment, it's gone as soon as you are. And people are like, well, didn't so used to do that? Yeah, but that's what they did, and it's new now. And so you have to have that broader commitment of everyone, because people can come and go. This is one of the things I learned when I first started in the education, not when I was in private industry. I started in a processing department. And one of the first things that happened to me is we were doing something, and it was a lot. And I said, how are we going to get this done? And then the president of the college left and someone else left. And I asked a lady, I had just started, I said, well, how are we going to do that? She said, honey, we do our work regardless of if they're here or not. And we all train each other, and we know. And so there was already a commitment within that department to make this thing work.
Right.
You always have that. And so they had the commitment and the knowledge. And so whoever left, it didn't matter. But if you can duplicate that at the larger level of university, if the change is that big, then it will change. And I can even think, not, I don't want to go off the end here, but with the Affordable Care Act, that is so important. And even though people tried many ways, and it's maybe not as, it's getting stronger now, maybe it wasn't as strong, but that was so important. Regardless of who was there, people realized, gee, I need, I need this. Maybe there's some problems with her, maybe there's this, or maybe this can go better, but we need some sort of something so that people aren't blogging up the emergency room, and so that everybody can get, everybody can get something without it being the same way. So regardless of where you stand on that, that was a big change for the country, and people understand its importance, and there were some people that learned its importance even before they understood what it was. But there are some changes that will take place regardless, as long as society or institution as a whole understand that it's so important.
Exactly. Well, you actually segued us really nicely into politics, because we only have about 10 minutes left, and I'm like, I got to get Kamala in here. Yeah, time is flying. So I was like, I got to get her in here. You segued me really good. Thank you, Paula. So Kamala, Vice President Kamala Harris. We celebrated her. That was our inaugural show, Rochelle. You remember that, right? That was our inaugural show in January. 6-month anniversary for the Real Talk Show. Woo! So, see, we go with that. We dropping the mic on that. How about dropping the mic on that? We drop the mic, drop the mic, drop the mic.
It's the phone, but
we drop the mic on the phone.
Mic, right?
There you go. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you, Paula.
I'm going to find one online and
yes.
a golden one and me a golden one.
I love it. That's it. That's what we're going to do, because it's 6 months anniversary for Rochelle and I, for our show. But also, it also is inaugural for the 6 months that we talked about celebrating Vice President Kamala Harris in office. So 6 months later, I just kind of want to do like a check-in. What do we think?
I think she's doing a great job. I think that whenever you're in a position of leadership, new leadership, this is the first woman vice president, first, African American, first immigrant, first Asian American. There are a lot of things coming at her. And if you look at only the news bite and the news clips and the arguments, it's hard to really understand what's really going on. She's been given, the immigration policy, voting rights. Those are two really big controversial issues.
Yes, they are.
And I know she was given a little fluff about, the answer about going to the Mexico border. But as a leader, she's trying to look at the larger picture. So she is going to and try to see what the root of the issues are. Whether or not, you have to learn to be, maybe really watch your P's and Q's and what you say. We've all had to learn that. But that is a really big issue. So she is going to the border. I mean, she's going to Guatemala and Mexico. So she's going to the leadership of the country so she can understand some of the underlying issues. And
they're not addressing their people in their country's needs, right? Yeah. I said as to why they're not addressing the needs of the people in their country and why.
Exactly. So she's trying to look at the big, and that's what leaders do. They look at the bigger issues. And quite frankly, everyone that goes to the border, they can have that photo op. But if that's not, and talk about, the kids and what we're going to do. But if we still have more coming in and we don't know why, she's a leader. She's looking at the big picture.
Right.
Okay. So, that's good. That's good.
Her comment was, flippant or whatever. You're a leader. You look at the bigger picture. You have other people to kind of do the hands-on thing. She is a leader. She's going to the other leaders. Help me understand what the problem is.
Right. I agree. I think Kamala, being born in Oakland, California, and multiracial, already had a big plate when she stepped in because she's a woman, of color, and we are judged under a microscope. I don't care what the world says. I don't care what you see. But true. Women of color are absolutely judged differently, and particularly as Black women, we are looked at differently. People say they don't do that, but they do. They do, regardless. Yeah, you can't help it. So, with regards to her stance on, or her going down to Guatemala, I found it really interesting that there were people there with signs talking about "Go back home" and "We don't want you" and blah 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 blah. But yet, when Donald Trump was in office, he would have never gone down there, for one, to find out what the issue was.
I was going to say that's number one.
Damn about the issue.
That's number one,
right? And three, these people that had these signs, he would have sent your butts back. I want to say the A word, but he would have sent your butts back without any remorse, anything.
Okay.
Signs, I'm like, hell, down here trying to find out the problem to help
trying to help
solve the problem to keep y'all here in the country, and y'all want her to go back home. What do you think? Some Donald Trump lookalike or Donald Trump is going to embrace you coming to America? Hell no. He gonna send you guys back as quicker than you got here. So that was very bizarre to me and very puzzling. People don't get it. You don't get it. But with regards to her, she's gonna be judged because one, she's a Black woman. I mean, plain and simple. She, she's a woman of color, and she's going to be judged regardless. And there are people that she can get 1,075 on the test, a way above perfect score, and they'll still say, well, you know what? She only got half a point on this one, so let's put her down on the half a point that she missed.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's just because of her color. And she's a woman. I think she's doing a good job. I don't really see a lot of what she's doing because we don't really hear a whole lot other than what they want us to hear and focus on.
There you go. I was going to say program managed news.
Everything else she's doing, we're not hearing about that. We only hear about the stuff that they want to focus on. And if you notice, they want to put the negative light on her. Okay. Pay attention, y'all. They want to put the negative light on her to discredit her credibility as being a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they talked about was just some of the corruption. You have to dig through the news to read what's really going on, but they said some of the corruption, some of the lack, and so she had actually got a commitment from 12 private companies to invest in the Northern Triangle. See that was, but that wasn't a soundbite because guess what? It wasn't negative. So
right,
I think
right.
I think what we need to do.
Wait.
I didn't get a soundbite. I didn't get a soundbite.
You know, like I really dug through and really, you know, started reading like, okay, what has been her accomplishment? Because you're not going to get that when you read.
You gotta dig.
You know, any of the news, it's that thing that people want. The writer wants you to, you know, it's called clickbait. They just want you to click on and read it and get upset. But if you read the other news where people are really giving a full article, you'll see some of the accomplishments she's actually making, and some of the tasks she's been given. But it's just those clickbaits, and I don't know. I just think that that we all need to read and dig in more, you know, and not us here, but we as you know, people of color, African American, we need to read more because and really understand what's really happening, because a lot of times we're arguing or we're making comments on just the higher stuff that doesn't even matter. And we're forming, unfortunately, opinions about things that could be true, but they aren't the whole fact. And I know as a person, I wouldn't want to be judged just on that surface. I want someone to look at, what did you really do, Paula, as a leader? What did you do? This? I did that, I did this. You know, I did this, this, and this. And yeah, I may have, you know, done this over here, but I did all these other things. And I think that's what we do sometimes as a society. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and I love it how you both hit on it so well, because it's like, yeah, she's doing great, but and I think both of you talked about how, but you know, when she stepped into it, she stepped into some huge shoes and a lot on her plate in the very beginning, and then like you were even saying, Paul, what they've already given her are big items: voter rights and immigration. Oh my gosh, those are those are explosive items. Those are items that are high on the on social justice agendas. So it's a very big position to have to take doing that. And we have to become archaeologists, like you said, and dig and dig and dig to be able to figure these things out. So as we get ready to close, if I could just kind of hear from you, Paula, and Rochelle as the co-host, what would you like to see her do? I mean, I know we're not talking about, it doesn't have to be in the next 6 months, but what's part of the term in this this part of this term, what would you like to see her do?
Well, I like I said, I would just, you know, I want to see more traction on the immigration policy, which I think she's working on. I actually looked at the whole People's Act, the voter registration. There's a lot of things in there that I mean, they've thrown everything in there. It's some of it is not just the right to vote or easier access or things like that we all kind of understand. Some of it deals with some other things. So I do think, you know, if I were someone on the other side of the fence, there's definitely probably going to be some compromises made. I just think she's doing a great job. I think that the only thing I would say, because I am one of those people too, is just really think, you know, really, you know, because she is, by her nature, she's a she's a lawyer, and she's got that in her. And so she's in a little different arena. I mean, I know she was in politics, but she's in a wider arena now.
Oh, yes.
I encourage her to be, you know, be extremely, you know, I know they talked about Biden because he was slow, but hey, he's careful with his words. So in that way, just don't give them anything, you know, try to give them less, you know, to jump it. But continue on, you know, do what you're doing. She's meticulous, she's thorough, she's knowledgeable, she is smart, she knows this stuff. She's trying to really get at the larger facts. I think she's doing a great job, and just encourage her not to be too hard on herself. You know, think about the words and definitely do some spa days.
With a little
That
bit
can't hurt.
with a glass of wine, or
That can't hurt.
something like that. I agree with Paula. I think as far as what I want to see her do, I'm not really sure, because I really don't know what the vice president does other than handles assignments. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, she's doing a hell of a lot better than Pence, because I have no idea what he did other than to be Trump's.
I'm gonna drop my phone on that one.
Look, wait a minute.
Okay, I'm gonna call it, but I have no idea. Do y'all? What the hell did he do? I think he was Trump's boy. Okay, he was supposed to be in charge of the COVID-19 the Rona task force. What the hell did he do? What did he do? I have no idea. So already on my bucket, in my task is she's doing a better job, because
she already surpassed it, right? She already surpassed it.
Visual. She's doing something. She's actually out there trying to find out the grassroots, right?
Kamala Harris, kudos,
right? Yes. So I don't know what I would like to see her do. I think if I had anything, I would say I would like for her to do something with regards to women and diversity, and but I don't really know for sure.
Right.
I just know she's doing more than Pence, and here's the other thing. When Kamala was Attorney General for the state of California, she incarcerated the highest level of African American men in our state history. So if people think that she's soft and because she's a woman of color, or she's a Black woman, or she's a Black East Indian woman, I'm sorry, she's not soft by any means, and she doesn't have a soft spot for us because of our color. Our color, you know what I'm saying? But with regards to that, I would like her to take her platform as a multicultural woman of color and utilize that to make the playing field more receptive to women. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we talked about on a previous show why there's only one African American CEO or chairman of the board of Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, we did. We did.
So I would like for that to open up. So sometimes her peers done. Maybe we have 5.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And women of color, not necessarily African American women,
right? But women of color,
color. But other than that, hey, Kamala, do your thing, girl. Represent. Badass. Right. You've got prosecutors, so you gonna find that little soft spot or that sweet spot, and you gonna put salt in that wound until you get what you want. So do your thing. I think she's doing a good job, and I'm just very proud. One, because she's from Oakland, California, my neck of California, my neck of the woods, and 2, that she is she's smart. You know what I mean? Smart,
very smart.
Yes,
people,
very intelligent.
Look, that's just a girl come out of her when she don't want it. Those looks, all of that. Because it's keeping it real in America, y'all. It's keeping it real in America. Not only do Black women do it too.
Give me that side eye.
Do them side eye. Look, but can't nobody do it like a sister. We can do volumes with our faces without saying a word. So
that's right.
You're doing a great job.
Yes, let's hear it for Vice President Kamala Harris. She is doing it no matter what. We may not agree with everything. We might not think this, that, but already, as my co-host has already said, she's already done more than Pimp. So, hey. But we got to get ready to go, ladies. It's been awesome. Paula, do you have any last words you want to say before Rochelle closes us out?
No, just thank you for
that.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for being on our show. We appreciate you. You've been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I guess Dr. Kim, you see how she just kind of slid that in there.
I love it. I love it.
Sweet. So thank you, Paula, for being with us on our show. And thank you to all of you out there. Please, you guys, share this show. I mean, we need more women to talk about the issues that affect us. We are always in little secret, come on. We can't we can't have change occur if we're not willing to stand up and be out front in front of it.
Exactly.
If we're not willing to be the Rosa Parks or the Harriet Tubmans, or change is not, it's not, or the Stacey Abrams for that matter, change is not going to occur. And when we women get together and we have dialogue, we get to understand the diversity among us women and the strength that we have when we come together in unity, that we can utilize to change things for the betterment of not only us, but of society and the future generations. Yeah. So if you guys out there watching us and feel inspired, you know, comment, leave us a message, leave us topics you want us to discuss, and share the show with everybody. But it's always a pleasure to have dialogue with phenomenal women, because that's how we get things changed. So thank you so much. Right. And Dr. Kim, I'm turning it back to you.
All right. Well, we are closed out officially because Rochelle just did it in such an eloquent way. Thank you. We thank you guys, and we'll see you next time on The Real Talk Show. Bye-bye.